What is up, guys? Ronaldo here. Welcome back to the channel. Man, this market has been obviously kind of depressing. I was trying to, I doubled down on this Ethereum short, which we'll talk about the next kind of goal for where we could end up. Ethereum's trying to push above 3,000 right now. I don't know if it looks to be the most, convincing thing. We didn't really hit off of anything too big other than like kind of the psychological $3,000 area. Same with the psychological 90K area for Bitcoin. We'll talk about those. But I mean, November is obviously going to go down as a red month at this point. Bitcoin so far has had a red kind of 2025. Some people are trying to make the argument that that would lead us to a green 2026. It's possible. I don't think, nothing looks too attractive to me right now. The S&P 500 doesn't look very attractive. The NASDAQ doesn't look very attractive. Gold doesn't even look very attractive. Nothing looks very attractive to me right now. It looks how it looked at the end of kind of 2021, and then you factor in diminished returns. So I do think that before we actually look at the charts and explain why, but I do think that May of 2026 could be an era, like an earlier potential bottom for Bitcoin and or Ethereum, or vice versa. Ethereum did bottom before Bitcoin last time, and you have an end to QT coming in 11 days. So we'll see what happens with that. But no, I think we're more in the bear territory. This trade's done well. I mean, I'll be completely transparent with you. I lost two other trades, but it's not like the end of the world. I think it's still kind of profitable because I added to this one, so it kind of like came down and made up for that. But it's probably like only slightly, because I lost like $4,000 in each one. So I mean, I'll get it. Like, I know I'll get it, but yeah, that like kind of impulsive long the other day. But I mean, it was a good trade, so we'll talk about it in a second. But yeah, anyway, guys, if you guys are interested in Discord, Nightshade's had a lot of good trades. He documents the journey really well. I myself, I've done pretty well in this. A lot of good TA there. Check out the Discord down below. If you guys are interested in trading and or want one free month in Aldo Empire VIP Discord, you can check out TapBit. It's the best promo right now. You get a nice deposit and trade bonus. You can register and they'll give you $50 to do one trial trade with on 1x leverage. It gets put out, taken out, or closed after 24 hours. And then there's a nice deposit bonus. Deposit 150, get 100. So there's some good deposit bonuses. Check them out. 20% for fees for life. If you sign up and deposit at least $150 to any of the exchanges down below with my link and open a sport ticket in the Discord, I'll give you one free month in the Aldo Empire VIP Discord. Just put in your email or your UID. Now let's get into it. So I don't really have anything drawn out too much right here. I mean, 91, 90, it's kind of a psychological area. I mean, you could even argue like these upper wicks. He didn't quite hit it yet. So I would be a little bit concerned. And I think, the thing too is like, you look at the gray EMAs, they're kind of like death crosses to a certain extent. Everyone's probably talking about the death cross. In a bull market, the death crosses lead to, upper areas. In a bear market, they, bring you down quite a bit more. And if you're looking at an earlier potential bottom, let's say things aren't as bad. I mean, a lot would argue without FTX, you wouldn't have had this last drop down. You would have bottomed out at 17K or whatever, and assuming everyone else, 17K was kind of Celsius and Tesla selling, so assuming those things aren't as bad this time around, you could get maybe sometime in May for a much less ferocious bear market. The thing too that I will tell you for a lot of long-term investors here, I mean, there's a lot of people. Twitter's been kind of the craziest I've ever seen it, but it's always been crazy. People telling you, I'm going to leverage long, and they're not even trying to like take profits. They're trying to go leverage long all the way up to 200K, all the way from like 100K all the way down there. But you just look at like Bitcoin's history, like it has 30% corrections all the damn time, like all the time, 30% plus corrections. I mean, so far this one's actually been less. I believe, less than the last two. That's 28%. I think this one was 30. So, if you're, I guess, unless you think this one will be slightly better, you still probably will gonna go down farther. And I don't even see anything major until like 80K. Now, what we can look at here, your money flow is coming into the red in the 3-day. I would say that's not the most best, thing either. You're kind of invalidating. This is where I kind of got tripped up, especially on Ethereum a little bit. You're kind of invalidating these snake eyes, these bull divs. Does that mean if you try to go long here, like it's a bad idea? No, it doesn't. It's just all about good risk management. Like if you did this, probably 7 out of 10 times or even 8 out of 10 times, you'd get a you get a jump, you know what I mean? Something like that. You'd get enough to hit your first take profit, and then you'd get a decent trade. Now, I mean, I don't know if I would take this trade, but you can try to, you can try to go off of like 89, 90K jump. You can try to do something, and this would probably work, enough. I mean, if you're doing a 2-to-1 risk ratio, you need it to work half the time to be profitable. So, something like this, would this work half the time? Probably. So, I mean, taking this is definitely not the worst idea. It's all about anything can always happen. It's having that strategy over time. So, I feel like I should. I have a little bit of PTSD from trying to long lately, but I feel like I should kind of take that long, if you know what I mean. So yeah, but then you look at some of these time frames, maybe like give it a day or two, just see what happens, and then you look at it from a month basis, and you get the trigger wave there that could bring us down farther, and you're kind of in a free fall area. I mean, you're down. Let's just see how much you're down, like since the last like 10 days, approximately like 16%. Like for Bitcoin, you're kind of free falling, not a place you want to be in, not good for the bulls. This could be a psychological jump. I'm sure other people probably do have some SR points here, but I don't have anything too major. 80K, this pocket right here would be huge if we can get there. So obviously macro not looking too good. I would say kind of the places to finally start to look at, potential bottoms would be, the next kind of, green dot wave on the 2-week. Now the last two were duds. They were kind of trigger waves that didn't work out, but maybe a deeper wave, if you do see that in May or something. Could be different this time in terms of, we don't get the trigger wave and then it just goes down farther. So keep that in mind. We'll look at ETH briefly here. I think that, money flow direction of these markets, not the best. Ethereum, I guess, sure, you got a decent shot of like, trying to reclaim 3K and jumping back to 3,100, maybe even jump up to 3,500. You're going to have a jump at some point. But if you're thinking red November, and it's like this, boring at the end of the month into the holiday or something, and the holidays usually are really, well, it depends on the year, obviously. Sometimes they're really boring, but they're usually really bearish or really bullish. If it's bearish into the holiday, then maybe you get a jump in the holiday, and then you do something like that. I mean, there's always, you're going to get some jump at some point. To enter a trade right now, it might not be. I mean, what can you do right now? Just similar to Bitcoin, obviously. Yeah, I would probably be more looking to go long in Bitcoin, but very similar situation. Confirms in 5 hours and 50 minutes, potentially trying to jump back up to, some areas here, at least 3,300, ideally 35. You could run that up, but could take some time. We need that kind of trend reversal. I think the big thing to look at here would be, ETH versus Bitcoin. And if we look at the last time they, ended QT, which ends December 1st, it basically marked the bottom, and then you came up a lot. We already have outperformed Bitcoin a lot, so this would tell you in all likelihood, assuming ETH survives, into the end of the decade, that you would come up and outperform Bitcoin. And I would say every altcoin that's also able to do that that it can outperform Bitcoin over the next 4 to 6 months probably will be an altcoin that continues to do well into the end of this decade. Others versus Bitcoin, remarkably, has generally been going up through all of this, kind of all this drop down for this month, which is kind of getting into the point with anticipation of QT ending. More money is buying the good deals in altcoins. Does that mean that, never say never? Look, I mean, the last time you look at kind of, this was that major altcoin season in that post-halving year, 2021. This was this major altcoin season, this post-halving year, 2017. We're not there quite yet where things really got going. I mean, things really got going, middle of December, you could even argue, beginning of December. So, maybe 2 more. I don't know. It would be just absolutely insane if things. I don't think that's really possible, but who knows? Maybe you do see altcoin season or something. I think something crazy would have to happen. I don't know if there's really just the retail interest at the moment, like the retail interest that's gonna bring this up, but things are looking similar to that area, so I wouldn't factor it out completely. I mean, it does look like things look good on others versus Bitcoin. The thing here is sometimes it's hard to pick the right one, because who in the world would have known Zcash would have went this high? And I mean, the thing here is a lot of people are trying to short this, and this maybe you're getting to that area. You know, if you were to try to short this, and we're at what, 5? Yeah, you're already down a decent amount. You probably would win the short, but it's hard to get a good risk-reward ratio. You know what I mean? If you went like low leverage or something and try to, I mean, you got to run this just for a 2-to-1. You got to run this down to 183. I mean, it's a lot. However, you know, if you're comfortable with a worse risk-reward ratio, you go into low leverage, you try to run this down. In all likelihood, you should win the trade, assuming this doesn't jump up to, you know, 800 or 900. It's possible, not too likely though. Solana, you know, kind of looks like a bull market top. Red X was back there, and that kind of, you know, had a lot of not good, not good stuff happen. Kind of a major technical target would be around 75. I would argue that you may have a shot at, especially if this can hold up against Bitcoin pretty well over the next 4 to 6 months, just another maybe 40% drop down to 90 or 100. I think those are, you know, kind of huge areas. And from this top, that would be a 70% correction, which is, I mean, I think it happened, but it kind of looks like maybe your best case scenario. Solana Bitcoin too. Keep an eye on this situation that I've been, you know, kind of potentially talking about. You're trying to jump up against Bitcoin here. So even if this stuff continues to go down, which I think it likely will over the next 4 to 6 months, some of your alts can outperform Bitcoin, and such as Solana, such as Ethereum. And if they do, they would be really good buys potentially in May, June, July, you know, later next year potentially. I do think, you know, Bitcoin seems to always bottom out a little bit earlier. So I think the latest it would bottom out in 2026 is October. Probably the earliest would be May. May is when you're going to see a new Fed chair. So that could mark that situation too. So keep that in mind. Gold versus Bitcoin. I've been looking at this pattern. Gold doesn't look very attractive. I think it will come down a bit. But you know, you seem to always have good jumps. So if you can see from this low here, and this is where Bitcoin topped out against, you know, it was December of 24. You know, Bitcoin didn't even make a new all-time high against gold this year. I mean, I don't think it's very unlikely that it will in the next month until the end of the year. But I think you could see, you know, 100, well, yeah, 200% in total jump. I mean, there's less volatility in Bitcoin over time, but this big area here, and then if you can see, I mean, the things I'm putting money into, you know, things I am holding instead of Bitcoin right now. I still hold, you know, a little bit of crypto, but, you know, things I am holding instead, S&P 500, Berkshire Hathaway Gold, kind of, you know, those three, Triple Q a little bit, you know, stuff like that, that likely will continue to outperform Bitcoin for another 4 to 6 months, you know, things of that nature. And yeah, I think this can continue. Triple Q versus gold too. I mean, you look at some of these, I mean, starting to really, you know, it's theoretically bled against gold since 2021. So a big kind of change and shift of, you know, these areas too. These EMAs are getting gray for the first time since the dot-com bubble popped here. And you had, you know, a nice kind of, you had a lost decade, you know, against the gold, you know, NASDAQ and S&P 500 had a lost decade against gold. Now, is that happening already? I think you could be choppy more, and then, you know, potentially it drops down more into the 2030s. Who knows? You know, who knows? But, you know, we all can agree this monthly does look pretty bearish there. So keep that in mind. Some of your big tech stuff, Palantir, I mean, I've talked about this a lot. You know, objectively rare bearish signs across the board. I mean, there could be a big bear and bull fight. They probably know a lot of people are buying put options on this or whatever, but I think it will go down, you know, over the next 4 to 6 months at least. I mean, it is very overheated. So keep that in mind. I mean, S&P 500 as well doesn't look very attractive at the moment either. 2-week bear div, you know, kind of hitting off of this major point, almost $700. That could be the yearly high. I mean, I could see us getting one more rally if December really gives us something big, but you know, I would guess, you know, it's probably not going to be as bad as 2022, and I don't think you're going into a recession, but, you know, a 12% correction, absolutely doable. Maybe even up to a, you know, 20% correction. I would guess it wouldn't go down any further than 20, but we'll see what happens. You know, so yeah, that's pretty much all I have right now. Hope you guys enjoyed this update. I'll see you guys again really soon. Goodbye.